I had this discovery the other night. I had a little impulse where I say, it's been 3 days since the gods left, and I never really knew what to do with that in rehearsal or the early performances. I just didn't quite get it. And the other night there's a moon on stage, like a little crescent moon, and I use it to indicate that it's nighttime and the gods are sleeping at one point. So I grabbed that moon and I just spun it around 3 times, and it was 3 days, and it got this huge laugh, and that is what performing every night does, is you find these little moments and this discoveries. I'm bleeding. I tend to read them because I want to think of critics as collaborators and not as critics. I don't really care how they feel about that. That's not a very good collaborator, not care how they feel about that. But I like to think that critical response is part of what we're doing, is that we want the conversation to continue. So I want to encourage a deep conversation about the work, and I can't do that if I ignore my collaborator. It'd be like ignoring my costume designer, you know? If I'm not looking at the costumes. Well, I don't look at the costumes, you know? that would be kind of crazy. But it is a hard thing to manage. I mean, that's the kind of thing that will make nobody remember your performance ever again. But I do like that he said it, of course. But but yes, that's can't think about that one. I've strategically tried to work with people that keep me committed to being an artist of ideas as opposed to an artist of ego seeking or ambition. So I try to work with people who are more interested in aspiration than ambition. So my agent Morgan Jeunesse is somebody who constantly is reminding me, okay, so let's talk about what this is for. Why are we doing this? As opposed to how can we get you into this theater or this fancy job or this thing. Let's talk about why we're doing it. And now once we know why we're doing it, then we can think about kind of what are the useful tools to help you get to a place where you can continue to do that. I know, there's everyone has a little hole inside of them, and people either figure out that how to fill it, or they're just with stuff that actually does fill it, or they just keep trying to cram things into it their whole life, and I feel fairly lucky to have been raised in a way and to have the people around me that are helping me learn how to fill it with things that are keeping it sustained. I mean, filled instead of just immediately going out. So I don't know if that answers the question. This is my first time working with Lear, and I loved it. So I hope that we continue to work together, and I feel like she's been a real supporter and ally. So I hope that collaboration will continue. And the Foundry too. I feel that way. I think Melanie Joseph has some incredible ideas about the world, and it's fun to even just sit down and have coffee with her, let alone collaborate with her. So so I hope that continues. Yeah. You always want to find the people that get it, so that understand what you're trying to do. And I was worried about this production in a lot of ways, because I thought, either I'm going to have to, they want me to do my drag stuff that I do. They want me to do my work in this Brecht play. So either and oftentimes when people want me to do my work, what they really want me to do is like they're treating it like it's a commodity, that they can then sell, or that they can use to enhance their own work, or that they can somehow. And so I always feel like, well, I can't do my work in your piece without watering down my work, and it's not going to work. So I was a little skeptical at first about saying yes. And I said yes, and I still was skeptical. I thought, I kept feeling like I was being asked to be, in some ways, not that they were asking this of me, but I felt this, that I was being asked to be a kooky drag queen, you know, or something like that. I'm supposed to make the audience laugh all the time, or I'm supposed to do whatever it is I do on stage for them. And then slowly but surely I realized that wasn't what the objective was. And so I was able to just do the job that is Shente Shwita, bringing myself to the role of Shente in this Brecht play, you know, and hopefully not water down Brecht or my own work, you know, in the process. So, instead we do our work together, which is much more interesting than doing my work in your piece, you know, because that is never going to work. But doing our work together is more interesting. The whole cast, I mean, they're all just so wonderful, and we just know how to do it. They know how to do it, so it's like I didn't have to do that part. You know, I didn't have to be the clown. I could be the straight man, you know, and that's something that I don't get to do that often. Usually I assign myself the role of the straight man clown, you know, and I get to do it all. And in this one, there was a clear, I needed to be the anchor and the straight man. So, and everyone else could be the clown, and that's why I think the production works, is because of that trust there. It's pretty neat. That's a nice way of looking at it. I'm always so down on the idea of downtown. I don't know, I think people do that uptown too. Like, what are we going to do with Mark Rylance? You know, what are we going to do with Mark Rylance? Let's put him in this play. You know, people do that all over the place. I don't think that's, I am actually kind of down on downtown right now. On the idea of it being a club and being this thing that's separate from uptown, and that uptown is separate from downtown, and that I keep saying, you know, it used to be that Sam Shepard, or people describe me as a downtown artist all the time. It drives me insane, you know, because I performed at the Sydney Opera House as many times as I performed at La Mama. Do they call me a Sydney Opera House performer? No, they call me downtown performer, right? And it's I performed in London a whole lot. Am I a London performer? No, it's kind of a way to say that I'm different and weird, you know? And I don't actually think I am different and weird. I think I'm pulling from a long tradition of theater. I'm a pastiche artist who is pulling from the Greeks and Elizabethans and things that we are recognizable and that we've been doing for centuries. And I'm squishing them into the present moment from all different angles, and that's what I'm doing. It is not in any way, shape, or form strange. So I get offended when people describe it as a thing that is like, ooh, that weird thing down there, that's so bizarre. I feel like it's denying our history and our past and not honoring that past. And I know a lot of times they're just trying to honor the downtown scene as being this special thing, but I actually don't think it is special. I don't think it's special. I think it's I love the people. I love the buildings, a lot of them. I love a lot of the work that comes out of them, but I don't see why it should be defined as something that should be in a neighborhood. I don't understand it. So you know, Sam Shepard is not called a downtown playwright, even though he started at La Mama, right? People don't call him that. And his work today is, even if he does it at Signature Uptown, is not that much different from when he was working at La Mama. So what makes him what makes him not a downtown artist? It just drives me insane. It's because he ended up working on Broadway, so he's not downtown. Harvey Fierstein started at La Mama. So why is what Harvey Fierstein does now not considered downtown? You know, I mean, it's because he's on Broadway or something like that, you know, and it used to be that you could go from La Mama to Broadway and then back to La Mama, and now everyone's so compartmentalized that you don't see Harvey Fierstein working at La Mama anymore, you know. It's like, because he wanted to get out of La La Mama into the big time, right? And I would love it if we had a culture where we all got to work on Broadway, work at La Mama, work on Broadway, work at La Mama, go over to Sydney, go to London, work, you know, I'm trying to encourage a more, just that the barriers get broken down a bit. So I'm not a huge fan of the downtown idea, and that may piss some people off, but oh well. I see some of those musicals on Broadway and I think, this is some avant-garde, this is some serious avant-garde performance, you know? Or I look at, but they would never say that about him because people from Utah are coming to it, you know? And people from Utah are coming to La Mama, right? So La Mama's strange and weird, but meanwhile that stuff, you know, Mamma Mia is stranger than anything that has happened at La Mama in 40 years, you know? If you look at that, like, that is some serious weird stuff. Or Death of a Salesman, that is avant-garde, that is, or realism is avant, kitchen sink drama, that is strange, that is the new, because that's only been around for 100 years, whereas, you know, all this stuff that's been going on at La Mama has been around for centuries. So, it's just crazy, I just don't understand it. Yeah, I gotta go do my vocal warm-up right now. So that's my next ritual. They do a little vocal, 30 minutes of a little vocal warm-up, and then I'm ready to go. But it's a hard play to do, primarily because I made some choices that make it more difficult than it would be if I made different choices. I made some vocal choices that make it a little harder than. You know, I decided to be Shantae, not Shweta and Shantae like a split personality situation, but I decided to be Shantae playing Shweta, and that so I watched a lot of things of how do female actresses play men on stage. You know, so like I watched Glenn Close in that Knobs film, and but I also watched some 12 Nights and some, you know, just how do actresses play men on a stage, because I decided it needed to be kind of a stage thing rather than real life, a woman actually playing a real life man. So I wanted to be a woman playing a man in a play, and so that meant that the vocal choice was a little bit more extreme than if I were just playing a man, then I would just talk like a man, like I'm talking right now, you know. But instead it becomes this thing, you know, it becomes a thing, and so that's just much more vocally demanding than just being a regular voice. So I find it's by the end of the show I'm like, whew, okay, and that's another thing that in the long run I would figure out how to do that and how to sustain that better than the easy sacrifice that I'm making for a 4-week run, you know.